peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
A very good afternoon to you, and thank you so much for finding time to be with us today. It is the 26th of September 2020. The show is Africa Showdown, and on the show, usually we look at what is making headlines and the issues across the continent of Africa, but we usually start with Kenyan issues first, and then we move on to other African countries. And today we will talk about Somalia. Is Somalia at the brink of a collapse with the recent developments between the disagreements between the President Mohamed Farmajo and his Prime Minister Hassan Roble? What does that mean for the country? And Gambia, we've seen an alliance that has left a lot of Gambians very uncomfortable. The current regime trying to merge together and work with that of the former President YAHYA JAMEH. And also we'll go to South Sudan, who is funding the conflict. There is a report that was forwarded to the United Nations Security Council that suggests a very damning information there about the possible involvement of the government in the chaos there. So we shall look at that. And then we shall look at not Somalia, but Nigeria as well, where President Buhari has been tasked to go and try and restore some socio-political stability in West African states, I think through ECOWAS. And that was the United Nations Secretary General Guterres is the one who tasked President Buhari with that responsibility. But is he the right person for the job, seeing how much turmoil and uncertainty and insecurity has skyrocketed in Nigeria? Will he be able to restore stability in ECOWAS while he can do that at home? So joining me this afternoon is Samuel Tawish, a journalist from Nairobi. Samuel Tawish, a very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon to you, Miriam Ogutu. Good afternoon to my colleague, panelist, Sean Wesonga. And of course, our viewers who are watching this program in Kenya, Africa, and the rest of the world, it's a great pleasure to join you on Africa Showdown. Good afternoon, Miriam.
Very well. Good afternoon to you. And we're also joined by Daniel Wesonga, also our special correspondent and our investigative journalist from Nairobi as well. Wesonga, nice to have you on the show, and a very good afternoon to you.
Yes, indeed, a very good afternoon to you, Miriam Ogutu, at our headquarters. Good afternoon to my good brother from Narok County, Tarisho Lesasina Samuel, and our viewers here in Kenya, Africa, and the rest of the globe who are watching us this afternoon. Indeed, it is a great pleasure to be on the show.
Okay, so let me take us quickly through the news-making headlines this afternoon. Our newspapers, two leading newspapers today, the Sunday Standard, and the main headline on the Sunday Standard, the hidden cards. Is there a possibility of Kenyans waking up one morning to the shock of sworn enemies deciding to work together on a joint ticket, or one supporting a bitter rival? Can President Kenyatta abandon his handshake partner Raila Odinga for another candidate? Analysts say politicians have plenty of options. The story is on page 7 of the Sunday Standard, and how youth and social media will decide 2022 poll. The story is a feature story on page 8 and 9 of the Standard newspaper. And all right, very well. And then we move on to the Sunday Nation, and the main headline: for sale, Kenyan Balkans. Politicians have carved the country into ethnic blocks for auction at the political podium, even as they claim to be campaigning on a unity platform, raising the tribe above the nation and making rubbish of democratic ideals. The stories on page 17, 18, and 19 of the Daily Nation. And then just beside that, Duale, I don't trust any politician, not even William Ruto. There is no honesty here, no ethics, no moral etiquette. If a politician regardless of his position, tells you to close your eyes so he can pray for you. Keep one open. And I think that is where we'll start our conversation this afternoon. Quite interesting, and perhaps honest opinion there from Duale. So what do you make of those sentiments, even as we look at our political week and the politics of tolerance in this country? Samuel Tawish.
Thank you so much, Miriam. I tend to likely agree with the sentiments of opinion that has been registered by Aden Duale, the former majority leader of the National Assembly. Indeed, Miriam, the reason why perhaps Aden Duale has come out and alluded to that fact that we cannot trust any politician. I think he's making reference to the kind of politicians that we have currently in the country, and also looking onto the kind of promises that usually they make to the people, and once they get elected, they do not actually live up to those promises. They do not fulfill any of the pledges that they made during their campaign periods. I mean, they say when politicians speak, it's better you get too much focus on what they do not say other than what they say, because more of what they say is never the truth, or they never walk the talk. And basically, I think that is what Aden Duale is saying. I mean, as Kenyan, we have been in this scene for quite some time. We've witnessed politicians, most of whom are still actually in the public gallery, trying to convince or persuade Kenyans really to vote for them, even come 2022. But Miriam, indeed, if you are to try and have a look, a flashback of these politicians, the kind of promises that they've been making to Kenyans, and from time to time, even those who have got an opportunity to be elected, you'll quite agree that you cannot trust these politicians because they do not live up to that promise. Once they get elected, they forget everything. This is about amassing illicit wealth. It's about giving job opportunities to their cronies. It's about engaging in corrupt activities. And it's about, of course, affluence. There's nothing about the ordinary mwananchi. So I largely agree with Aden Duale's sentiments. Indeed, I cannot as well trust any of these politicians, be it William Ruto, be it Aden Duale himself, President Uhuru Kenyatta, Raila Odinga, and so many of the politicians we have in the country. I submit.
Okay, thank you so much. Now, Daniel Wesonga, Duale says there is no honesty here, no ethics, no moral etiquette. And yet these are the people we trust in the very important political decision-making bodies like the parliament, like affairs of this country, and yet they don't have etiquette, they don't have morals, according to Duale. So where does that leave a kawaida Kenyan, if I may use that term?
Yes, thank you, Miriam. And of course, I'll start my commentary by referring to what Dr. Matsanga shared a while back while talking about the hypocrisy that was actually manifested in the camp of the deputy president. And I remember him in one of his morning articles quoting the renowned literature guru, that is Chinua Achebe of Nigeria, saying that if an alligator comes out of the waters one morning and it tells you that the crocodile is sick, then you have to believe him. And I believe that is the case with our politicians. When Duale talks about the hypocrisy in our political realm, then that is the pure truth that is happening in our political space. And that now takes Kenyans to the work of the daunting task of making sure that we actually vet the people we elect as leaders. If we go on electing scoundrels and people who have a low integrity, then we will suffer the consequences. And I remember there is a quote which says that politics, being the second most oldest profession, it bears a striking resemblance to the first profession. You know what it is. So to me, I think our political class has been nothing but a pure breed of crooks who have been actually just presenting their own agenda rather than the agenda of the people who elected them. And therefore, when Duale talks about it, then you should know that that is actually what is happening, owing to the fact that he has been a majority leader in parliament, and he has been at the core of the leadership of the Jubilee Party. But also something that actually strikes me is that Duale, being that someone who has been in parliament long enough, when he talks about this hypocrisy in leadership, and again, he goes ahead to support the deputy president, then it beats logic, Miriam, to believe such an individual. He's just part of those crooks he's talking about. And I believe from him, he has no interest in changing the narrative. I submit.
Okay, thank you so much. And we're also joined by Professor Jared Onyari. Prof, a very good afternoon to you. Okay, I thought Professor had joined. Maybe he suffered a bit of a technical hitch, but once Professor is able to join us, we shall continue with that conversation. All right, so Mount Kenya tycoons in talks with Raila. The Mount Kenya Foundation, a lobby consisting of wealthy individuals who were influential in the re-election of President Kibaki, and Uhuru Kenyatta has lined up a series of meetings with the ODM leader. And I think, was it yesterday, we saw Deputy President, he was in Migori, and I think Raila Odinga was somewhere in is it Nyahururu or where? Or he's supposed to be going there today, but he fellowshiped with the Akorino Faith. Was it yesterday or Friday?
He was in Gilgil
Oh,
in
he was in
Nakuru County.
Gilgil. Thank you so much for that. And so we've seen a level of tolerance that perhaps has not existed before in this country. So does that mean that perhaps the country, we are moving towards a better trajectory when it comes to political tolerance, Tawish?
Well, Miriam, for a country to move forward, for a country to be prosperous, and for a country to live up to its aspirations and dreams, there comes a time when you need to strike compromises. And I think that is what is informing the decision by, of course, the Kikuyu elite, really to converse around Raila Odinga, especially as he guns for presidency come 2022. One, do not forget, Miriam, that there's an aspect of the interests of the people of Mount Kenya. And more often, apart from President Uhuru Kenyatta, who is the, of course, the current spokesperson, of the Mount Kenya people, there's also that a group of elite individuals, rather the influential and wealthy individuals in the name of the business community who are drawn from the Mount Kenya region. And more often, they also inform the direction upon which the people of central Kenya can vote in as far as the presidential election is concerned, because one, they also have to gauge and look into how their interests are going to be catered, especially on the business front, on the economy. And in itself, Miriam, I think it has come to the understanding of the Kikuyu elite, most of the wealthy business people, that the person who can cater best their interests will be Raila Odinga and the presidency if he did win elections next year. And that is why they are putting the best foot forward. They are making sure that they are going to sell Raila Odinga to the electorates in Mount Kenya and maybe the rest of the country. They're also making sure that they're going probably to fund him, to ensure that they give him the requisite resources to be able to clinch the presidency come 2022 general election. In itself, Miriam, it is not just an ordinary kind of submission that the Kikuyu elites are making. It is informed by the fact that looking onto the current crop of top contenders in the presidential race, you only have Raila Odinga on one hand and William Ruto on the other hand. And therefore, if these individuals are not comfortable enough with William Ruto taking over as the president of the Republic of Kenya, they will easily fall for Raila Odinga. And that's why you see most of them are now gravitating towards Raila Odinga. Even today, you talked about yesterday's meeting in Gilgil, of course. And today I've also been watching closely the events in Laikipia County, where Raila Odinga was in Nanyuki, if I'm not very wrong. He's met the youth in that particular region, including some of the business moguls led by SK Macharia and other leaders who are drawn from Mount Kenya. In itself tells you really, Miriam, that Raila Odinga is very keen on having a charm offensive in Mount Kenya region with the help of these individuals. Remember last time when he was in Gatanga, Peter Kenneth did challenge Raila Odinga that come and sometimes you can even spend a night here, walk, go to the churches, speak to the people. Nobody is barring you from speaking to the people and sell your agenda and policies to the electorates. Because again, if you stay out there, if you stay aloof, then everybody will say Raila Odinga is not coming to ask for our votes directly. So I think that is basically what he's doing. He took the cue, and from that time henceforth, I've been seeing Raila Odinga, of course, making forays in Mount Kenya region. And to a large extent, it is going to add him a bit of some votes come 2022 general election compared to the past elections. Miriam, I submit.
Okay, thank you so much. And in line with the politics of tolerance, yesterday Deputy President was in Awendo, Migori County, and while he was there, Deputy President William Ruto yesterday accused President Uhuru Kenyatta and Orange Democratic Movement leader Raila Odinga of marginalizing Nyanza economically. Now, the DP was in Nyanza, a region that has historically supported Mr. Odinga. Dr. Ruto said the president has joined hands with Mr. Odinga to deny him the presidency in 2022. The DP, who addressed a crowd in Awendo, Migori County, said the two leaders have turned against him even after I helped them get to power. Many people here are jobless and businesses have collapsed. Sugarcane farmers are suffering because the government has let you down. We must have a government that thinks about ordinary people, not creating and sharing leadership slots. Forget the fact that DP Ruto is still in the same government that has made people suffer, if I was to go with what he's saying. Daniel Wesonga.
Yes, thank you, Miriam Ogutu. And first of all, I would really like to project the kind of hypocrisy and double-speak that comes from the Deputy President, William Ruto. Yesterday in Migori, he fundamentally told the people of Migori that Raila Odinga and the President had actually neglected them, in that they are not enjoying whatever projects that were being rolled out across the country. But he talks about this in the backdrop of the last Madaraka Day celebrations, where the president actually launched a massive infrastructural developmental projects in the wider Nyanza region, ranging from Siaya, Kisumu, Homa Bay, and even up to Migori. We do have national government projects which are being done. But because William Ruto is on the path of doing his presidential campaign at the cost of the legacy of his boss, he's actually turning a blind eye on these developmental projects, and he's actually advancing a narrative of hate and incitement towards the people of Nyanza province. That is the same thing. When he goes to Mount Kenya region, he tells the people of the mountain that they have been neglected by the president, and the president is actually taking all the development projects to Nyanza and parts of Western Kenya who did not vote for him. So this tells you that this is a person who conveniently uses a certain situation actually to propagate his agenda, and he does not care whether it is a very retrogressive and inciting sentiment that he puts out there to the masses. All he wants to do is to make sure that he turns the masses into favoring his support for 2022 presidential aspiration. And that tells you that this is a very, very selfish person. Secondly, Miriam, on the issue of Mount Kenya, today Raila Odinga has been in Laikipia County, and actually, as so many people did not expect, he received a very, very thunderous welcome in Laikipia, together with Governor Nderitu Mreithi and Maina Njenga. So that tells you that actually the wheel of politics is turning in Kenya. We are having a new dawn where tolerance to Raila Odinga is becoming a reality in Mount Kenya region. Remember, this is a region which has been a bastion of anti-Raila rhetoric, which has been simmering for decades. And when you talk about this, you have to put a historical angle on it. You look at the past years, like 20 or 30 years, where Raila has been battling out with the presidential contestants from Mount Kenya. And you realize that Raila Odinga has never been in bad books with the people of the mountain. The only thing Raila did which was wrong, and that is according even to Maina Kamanda and other luminaries in the Mount Kenya region, was to contest against their own. And that is why we had all these battles about Raila Odinga. But in no any particular time have we ever heard that Raila Odinga has sponsored violence against the people of the mountain, and no particular time we have ever heard that Raila Odinga has actually discriminated the people of Mount Kenya against any other tribe in this country. For matters of fact, Raila Odinga has helped more Mount Kenya people in terms of appointing them in nomination slots, in terms of even working together with Mwai Kibaki, with Uhuru Kenyatta at one point, and even Kenneth Matiba during the liberation for the second struggle in this country. And therefore, that is the only mistake that Raila Odinga did. But when you go to the other side, the William Ruto side, in 1992, the people of Mount Kenya suffered a lot in Molo and other parts of Rift Valley due to electoral violence. The same thing happened in 1997. And in that particular time, when you read through the annals of history, you realize that William Ruto, together with Cyrus Jirongo, spearheaded a very vicious, group of young people called the YK92, which purged the proponents of multi-party democracy, and also spearheaded violence in parts of the Rift Valley, wider Rift Valley province. Also, we saw whatever happened in 2007, 2008, people being burnt in churches. And if William Ruto had allowed that to happen in his backyard, and later on in 2013, President Uhuru Kenyatta was able to hold his hand, sanitize him, and take him to the mountain, and the people of the mountain embraced him, I believe it is high time, Miriam, very soon you will see Raila Odinga being embraced in the Mount Kenya region.
Okay.
Raila Odinga did not commit sins much bigger than what William Ruto has done to the people of the mountain. And therefore, whatever we are seeing right now is just a song to what we are christening as Raila climbing the mountain. And soon it will become a reality. I believe the people of the mountain are smart enough to make clear their intention and be able to identify leaders who can champion for their aspirations and their agenda going into 2022. And that is why the top cream of the society, the technocracy of the Mount Kenya region, is actually closely embracing Raila Odinga's presidency, because in contrast with the other contestants, they understand what Raila holds for them. I submit.
Okay, thank you so much, Daniel Wesonga. Professor Jared Onyari, a very good afternoon to you. Prof, good afternoon.
Yes, Prof is muted.
Okay. Could you unmute, Prof? I want to get your thoughts on this matter before we move on to the next item.
Yeah.
Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon to Miriam.
All right, nice to have you on the show. So now we are looking at the politics of tolerance. And yesterday we saw Raila was in Gilgil, where he attended a convention of all Israel churches of Kenya. And then Deputy President was in Awendo in Migori. And when he was there, of course, he was attacking the government and how the government has failed. And he particularly said the cost of fuel is high because those in government have forgotten their roles. Borders cannot work as they have no money for petrol, the DP said. He's saying those in government have forgotten their roles. Do you know any other person who has forgotten his role compared to the deputy president? Or, I mean, the hypocrisy in that statement.
Miriam, thank you for that good question, and thank you for what the person trying to say, Miriam. Miriam, the thing you cannot do is history, you cannot erase or delete. History will ever remain history, and it will reward you what you do, Miriam. When you come to politics of tolerance, Dr. Miriam, you know the President Uhuru Mugai Kenyatta and the Prime Minister Raila Odinga, they are committed, Miriam, to unite this country through the handshake. Despite all the challenges we have, and Miriam, that's why you can see the politics of tolerance. You can go to Migori, you can go anywhere. This country, Miriam, and you said you are product, Miriam, without insulting each other. Miriam trying to say that the government has neglected the people of Nyasa, Miriam. Just go there and see it by yourself. Miriam, I reckon Dr. William Samuel Ruto, as a student who doesn't go to exam, who doesn't go to class, to attend classes, and then the exams comes, he goes to a lecture room, Miriam. What will you write down and you are not in class, Miriam? When the teacher was teaching, you are not in class. When the president and the prime minister are uniting the people of this country, they are saying that nobody should look at you simply because of the name you have. Miriam, a few years ago, before the 9th March 2018, you could not go to Nyasa and just walk like that. I can bear testimony, Miriam, that during the tenure of President Mwai Kibaki, when he comes to Nyasa, he will only come to Kisii and he has finished Nyasa. But now you see he's having a privilege of going to Awendo, going to Migori, and saying that he has helped the prime minister, he has helped the Uhuru Mugai Kenyatta to become a president. Then if you have got that kind of magic, then make yourself a president. Why do they need to support you? Because you know how to make people become presidents and prime minister. Let me just make himself. Miriam, that kind of atmosphere which has been created, Miriam, the politics of tolerance, you can see it. And Miriam, these are rich records. Those people who doubt President Uhuru Mugai Kenyatta is committed, Miriam, on leaving this country united. So Miriam, don't go to Nyasa and say that people have been neglected, no development has been taken to them, Miriam. It does even know the genesis of the revolution, Miriam. And to be very honest, and I don't want to be biased. And you need to be done it, and Tawis. In terms of the role of democracy in this country, what does Dr. William Samoei Ruto done? In terms of rule of law and good governance, what role has he done? In terms of human rights, what role has he done? You can hear even the Prime Minister. He has gone to Central Province against all the odds. He has said 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote. As the deputy president pronounced himself, so let him just spare. He has run away from the office, and that's why, as long as God gives me the breath, I will continue saying that this kind of constitution we have, if someone does not work, he absconded duty, is supposed to be sacked. But what kind of the constitution this we have, whereby you cannot deal with someone, and he's even ashamed of going to say, they are saying that he's going to provide protection to the deputy, to the prime minister and the president. The constitution gives them protection. You can hear when he comes out with that kind of scenario, the kind of mind he has, Miriam. So to wrap it up and to submit myself, Miriam, I'm happy with what the prime minister is doing. I'm happy with what the president is doing. This is the kind of the atmosphere that we need for people to go around the country and sell their products. Miriam, we cannot have all good times. And this is not the only country, Miriam, where we are facing the economic challenges, Miriam. Unemployment is not in Kenya, Miriam. We are trying to do our best. And that's why we were trying to do something to BBI, Miriam. We address on how we can cushion our youths, support them, support the business, fight corruption. Now I'm on record, and I want to be on record, Miriam. If more than 600 billion, which is wasted annually, will go to support the programs, the development programs in this country, we cannot even be able to have that kind of employment, Miriam. Why don't you tell the youth to make use of the Youth Enterprise Fund, the Women Enterprise Fund? Those funds are there. And that's why we wanted to give more money to go to the grassroots, so that the governors and the leaders at the grassroots level, Miriam, they can be able to attend to the needs of the young people. I submit.
Okay, thank you so much. And before we move on from Kenyan issue, we saw, was it last Sunday, where Babayao, former, Kiambu Governor YT2, as accompanying Deputy President William Ruto in Kiambu last Sunday, and Baitishu said he is considering contesting the county's governorship on a UDA ticket next year. Then he asked the crowd, can those who want me back as a governor raise their hands? He asked the crowd, and I am with you and will be with the Deputy President in UDA. He campaigned for KANU in March 2020. He's politically fluid, this Waititu guy. But should UDA give him this ticket, would it be a political suicide on that part? And why? Why should they give him? He still has a corruption case in court. Samuel Tawish.
Thank you, Miriam. Thank you for that question. And Miriam, I hope you're not surprised that YT2 is gravitating towards William Ruto. Remember, even during the impeachment motion that was actually at the Senate, brought by the county of Kiambu, that impeached Governor YT2 then, the only senators who supported or were against the impeachment of YT2 were those who were allied to Deputy President William Ruto, led by none other than Susan Kihika of Nakuru, the Elgeyo Marakwet, Kipchumba Murkomen, the Cheruiyot, and others who came out and openly opposed the impeachment of YT2, as was proposed by the county government of Kiambu, or by the county assembly rather, of Kiambu. In itself, it speaks volume, Miriam, that this William Ruto is a man who is so much busy courting individuals who are quote-unquote goons in the political arena. because when you look into Mike Mbuvi Sonko during his impeachment in Nairobi here, you saw how the senators allied to Deputy President William Ruto came out in his defense. You saw even during the impeachment of Waititu, the same thing happened. You've seen even just of late, William Ruto is courting Governor Okoth Bado of Migori County, where he was hosted yesterday. And the kind of integrity, the kind of corruption matters hovering on the head of Governor Okoth Bado are out here for everyone really to see. Then does it then surprise you that all individuals who are maybe undergoing investigation or have been arraigned in court for one reason or the other are only but finding solace in Deputy President William Ruto's armpits? Doesn't it make logic, Miriam? Because this is a man who is out here to completely hoodwink the public that is a solution to the problems, when indeed is part and parcel of the problems that we are going through. How can you court an individual who is already going through a court case, a person who the county assembly has rejected, a person who I believe even the people of Kiambu did not quite vote for him, save that maybe he was rigged into office by virtue of his closeness to Deputy President William Ruto? We understand even the cards that were being played then in the run-up to 2017 general election. But be that as it may, Miriam, the most important thing is we want to see the EACC, we want to see the IEBC walk the talk. We cannot have these individuals being cleared even in the first place for their names to be on the ballot when they still have integrity questions really to answer. It is not possible, Miriam, because again, we'll be leaving the vulnerable populace of voters at the mercy, I don't know at whose mercy, because again, when these individuals present their names on the ballot, then the ordinary people, especially those who are illiterate, those who are not well educated, may not necessarily make a good or a sound decision, because they have been presented with all types of individuals to contest or to choose from. So, Miriam, I want to tell you, it doesn't matter whether UDA is going to give him a ticket, or will not be surprised if it does. And I know why Waititu is bitter with President Uhuru Kenyatta and former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. You remember, because he feels maybe his ouster was orchestrated by the handshake. And just like the current governor of Kiambu has come out and said he's the firstborn of the handshake. So it doesn't quite, it doesn't beat logic that Waititu comes out and says is supporting Deputy President William Ruto, especially to contest for the governorship of Kiambu. But it's upon now the people of Kiambu themselves, if at all Waititu's name finds itself on the ballot, for them to determine whether this is the kind of leader they want or not. That decision really and squarely lies with the people of Kiambu who will be casting their vote. I submit. Thank
you so much. Daniel Osonga, quickly on this matter, will it be a political suicide on UDA side should they decide to give Babayao the gubernatorial ticket? They're seeing that he's facing some serious corruption charges in the court, and also Obado is facing very serious criminal charges, and he has an ongoing an ongoing a case right now in the courts. It's interesting. Why do you think they find it easy being around Deputy President and the issue with Kiambu?
Yes, thank you, Miriam. And of course, the Englishmen say that a bad child brings a bad name to the family. So indeed, that is going to have a very, very deep ramifications to the UDA. And basing on the fact that politics is always built up around perception, then these will portray UDA as a party where thieves, thugs, and other criminals and merchants of anarchy can find a very safe haven, a very relatable environment where they can be able to come together and unite. I will say maybe quite in clear terms that thieves are actually uniting under UDA. They are regrouping under UDA. And Miriam, when you look at politics, the major building blocks, the principle amongst all the building blocks of politics is always interest, and secondly, ideology. So if Ferdinand Waititu, someone who has been convicted of massive corruption in Kiambu County, if Okoth Obado, someone who has been accused of not only corruption, but also murder of someone else and a baby, that tells you that the kind of people who hang about around the deputy president are all described in one term. They are all merchants of impunity, corruption, and all the other shady dealings that you could ever imagine of. We have seen not only Obado and Waititu, we've seen Mike Sonko, who is out of office due to corruption charges. We have seen Governor Moses Lenonkulal of Samburu County also being part and parcel of the deputy president's entourage. We've seen MPs like Major Waluke of Bungoma being part and parcel of the deputy president's entourage. So that tells you that UDA as a party, or William Ruto as a person, actually has been seen as a safe haven, as a safe embrace, where all the corrupt and all the people who are accused of all evil things could actually find an embrace and find a very, very safe shelter and when they are under the pursuit of the law. Because you will never see such individuals maybe running back to President Uhuru Kenyatta or the former Prime Minister. Governor Ferdinand Waititu is a very, very good classical example. He tried, after being ousted, he tried to go back to the president. And I read in the news dailies that he could actually follow the president in every event that the president was addressing the public. But the handlers of the president, I believe, under instruction from the president, did not allow him anywhere near the president. And it is because Governor Waititu was not ousted because maybe the president hated him or the former prime minister had any kind of vendetta against the governor. It is because he was judged on a moral balance, which he was found not to add up because he had looted public coffers. The same thing with Governor Sonko. So therefore, when you try to bring in a political angle, maybe saying that they are being witch-hunted out of office, I think it is something quite unfair for the deputy president and those sympathizers who are sympathizing with these thugs to say that these people were maybe driven out of office because they supported the deputy president. If it were the case, then we would have seen Governor Waititu maybe mending fences with the president or the former prime minister, something which did not happen. We would have seen Governor Mike Mbuvi Sonko going for a handshake with the president to support even the BBI, which was failed by the court. But that did not happen. Why? Because I believe the president and his brother Raila Odinga are on a very, very serious path of crushing and sending back corruptions to the gallows, and also ensuring that we have leaders of integrity who are concerned about delivering on the legacy projects and also the mandate that they are given by the people. So they have no time of involving cheap politics in these kind of shenanigans that we've seen are happening across the counties. So let them carry their own process, let them go where they are tolerated, and that tells you that there is a camp where corruption is not a shocker to anyone. And that tells you the kind of person William Ruto is and the kind of leadership you could expect, God forbid, if he was to become the president of Kenya. Very corrupt to the core. I submit, Miriam.
Okay, thank you so much. Professor, your thoughts on this story? Babayao intending to vie using UDA party.
Miriam, my thoughts are not much different from what Daniel and Tawis have presented, Miriam. But I can tell you that Miriam, birds of the same feather works together. It's true, Miriam. And Miriam, with a lot of honesty, show me your friends and I will tell you your character. Miriam, is it by coincidence that any person who has been mentioned in corruption finds his home as the deputy president? Is it by coincidence? The other day, Miriam, you saw the governor for Kirinyaga, Annie Waiguru Kamoto. ICC went to ask her to go and write the report, and he's saying now he can go to UDA. Miriam, can't he go to Musalia Mudavadi? Can't he go to Kalonzo Musyoka? Can't he go to Gideon Moi? Then this one tells you, it speaks volumes by itself, Miriam. Miriam, the people of Kiambu gave Governor Waititu an opportunity to serve them. What did you see him do? To go and give tenders to his wife and his daughter. Miriam, he had an opportunity to defend himself before the National Assembly of Kiambu, where he failed miserably. He had the opportunity, Miriam, to defend his name in the national, in the Senate, the floor of the Senate, Miriam. You saw what happened. Be it as it may, if I were him, Miriam, and knowing that I am a gentleman, that I have failed the trust of the people of Kiambu, Miriam, I will not go to bother them again. But being who he is, Miriam, and you know chapter 6 of our constitution, Miriam, on leadership and integrity, Miriam, it is very clear by these monsters in Parliament, Miriam. They decided to dilute that section of the Constitution, Miriam, whereby saying that you are innocent until proved guilty, Miriam. So even if as much as we want to say that they should not contest for any position, Miriam, and that is the spirit of the Constitution, Miriam. But they decided to water it down. So you can see him again going to represent his name to the people of Kiambu. But to me, from where I sit, it is an insult. Miriam, once you have lost the trust of your people who have given you an opportunity to read, like the Deputy President Miriam, is he not even ashamed to come and even tell us that he wants to be a president of the Republic of Kenya? When we elected him with his eloquence telling us what number of stadiums we are going to have, Miriam. And Miriam, I have keenly listened and followed these people from Tangatanga now, Uda. I have not heard anyone addressing corruption, Miriam. Hakuna mtu ameongea tu ya ufisadi, Miriam. Then it tells Miriam, once they tell they take power, and God forbid that, just as Daniel has said, it will be a terrible thing that which we will watch, Miriam. So Miriam, I will not be surprised, being Waititu who is, that he can go again to the people of Kiambu to tell them elect me. But I know they are intelligent enough, Miriam. And I hope the hearing of this case, Miriam, goes very fast, and Miriam, so that he's hammered never to contest again in any office, even the one of a cattle, Miriam, even chairman Yamatanga, Miriam, because Miriam, you cannot be given an opportunity, Miriam, to go to steal with your wife and your daughters and your family members, and then you have got the audacity of saying that Natasimama na Uda. Uda Sasa stands for what? Let me just submit by concluding by saying, birds of the same feather, flocks together.
Okay.
Show me your friends, I will give you a character. I submit.
Okay. Thank you. Show me your friends and I'll tell you who you are. I think that is how that saying goes. And that marks the end of our Kenyan topics this morning, this afternoon. Okay, it's 8 minutes to 3 p.m. here in Nairobi. It's not morning. And so we'll get into the conversation on Africa. Prof, please, if you can mute your device. Thank you. And we'll start with the Gambia. Is the return of YAHYA JAMEH imminent? Now, the Gambian political enemies have formed a pact ahead of elections in December. A coalition of parties formed to unseat Mr. JAMEH, who had been in power for 22 years. Much of his rule was marked by harsh authoritarianism, and judging by the testimonies at not so long ago completed sittings of the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparations Commission, a litany of human rights abuses. Given this background, it was a shock when Mr. Barrow, who is the current president of the Gambia, had the coalition candidate won with 43% in the vote to Mr. YAHYA JAMEH 40%. And Mr. JAMEH initially accepted the result, even going on TV to concede. That was in that elections, I think about 10 years ago, that saw the Gambia in a brink of collapse there when Mr. YAHYA JAMEH refused to leave power after Adama Barrow won. But later on, YAHYA JAMEH left the country and is now in Equatorial Guinea, where he went to seek asylum. So now this new coalition is between YAHYA JAMEH's party and the current leadership in the Gambia, and the Gambians have been left very confused. And one of the opposition, a leader of that party by YAHYA JAMEH, interim leader Fabakary Tombong Jatta, said this was the motive behind the deal with the NPB. The Gambia must put an end to harassing and traumatizing our former leaders who have left the office. We should pay no heed to the wishes of the International Criminal Court, which only prosecutes Africans, not Western leaders, even those that have committed atrocities. Having said that, Mr. JAMEH is unlikely to return before the election, fearing arrest for breaching the terms of his exile and inflaming the political scene ahead of what is already shaping up to be a hotly contested election with 18 parties registered so far. So my question that is tied to the topic we have on Gambia this afternoon, with this new coalition between the sitting government's party, Adama Barrow, and the former president, YAHYA JAMEH's party, are they trying to provide a soft cushioning for if at all Mr. JAMEH decides to come back home. As we know right now, he is in Equatorial Guinea. Samuel Tawish, I know you're very familiar with this story.
Very well, thank you so much, Miriam. Indeed, I'm very familiar because I remember it was in the year 2016 when we had elections in the Gambia, an election that saw, of course, YAHYA JAMEH being ousted from power after almost, 21 years in power. And I think, just like you mentioned, is one of the presidents I remember who, first of all, conceded defeat, but came back just days after and said the election was not free and fair. It was rigged in favor of Adama Barrow, and therefore the results are null and void, and the Gambian should be subjected to yet another electoral exercise. In which case, of course, the members of the ECOWAS, I remember, was it led by Johnson Sirleaf from Liberia? I remember, who was the leader, the chairperson of the ECOWAS. I mean, they stood their ground and said the will of the people of Gambia must be respected. And respected in the sense that the person who has won the election is the one who must be sworn in as the president. And we all understand, of course, what happened when Adama Barrow went to Senegal. He was sworn in of course, Gambia's commission in Senegal. He became president. But again, the events that followed after, when, of course, the exit of then outgoing President YAHYA JAMEH into Equatorial Guinea, and the kind of animosity, you can quite understand, because much as there are people who voted for Adama Barrow to become president, we equally understand that almost on a 50-50, because you're talking about 43% and 40%, that is almost 50-50% who voted for, of course, YAHYA JAMEH as well. In itself tells you that this particular leader still has or had support across the country, and you can't just quite wish him away. And when you getting into such a national leadership position in a nation where someone has ruled for over 20 years, that is, you're talking about 2 decades, Miriam. So it's not just going to be a walk in the park. It's not just going to be easy for you to wish away the kind of ideals or ideology that that person has really planted in the minds and hearts of the people of the Gambia. And looking into that kind of hostility and animosity that has pitted the two, of course, the two supporters of the supporters of the two leaders, it was important, and it's a good gesture that President Adama Barrow has found it fit eventually to, one, allow, of course, former President YAHYA JAMEH to come back to the country. Second is the truth that they have, of course, struck. The working relationship between the two parties. It's something that is commendable, and I think it's something that we can quite borrow a leaf from. I think they are trying to learn from what Kenya did. You have Raila Odinga on the other hand swearing himself as the people's president, and President Kenyatta having been re-elected. And of course, if each of these people really were to have a hardline position, then we will not have had the truth that we had in 2018 March. And I think that is what it is. It has served a very big lesson to other political leaders in the region, if not in the world. And I think they have just borrowed the leaf. That is why now they are reaching out to one another and seeing how they can work together for the greater good of the people of Gambia. This is a good gesture, Miriam. I do not think that we should really read mischief, that maybe there's a hidden agenda as to why President Adama Barrow is deciding at long last to work with YAHYA JAMEH, a person he ousted from office. I submit.
But you see, when you look at, I know you've drawn comparison with what we saw in the handshake we saw here in the country that brought us stability, and now we see the politics of tolerance becoming stronger every day in the country, and that is a good thing. But remember, YAHYA JAMEH, the country even had to set up a Truth and Reconciliation and Repatriation Commission to look into the ills that he had perpetrated while he was in power, 20 years plus. And there's a litany of human rights abuses. There are rapes, there are people who disappeared, freedom of press was a problem. And so it's a very different scenario in this regard. This is a person who's wanted in that country. So how would that compare with our situation here? Here it was just a political disagreement over how the elections were held. But President Kenyatta, Raila Odinga, or former President Mwai Kibaki, they don't have a record of human rights abuses like what we saw YAHYA JAMEH. So Daniel Wasonga, by the current leadership joining the party and working together with the party of the former President YAHYA JAMEH, and we know there are victims who are waiting to be repatriated as we speak right now. How I know we're in the season of handshakes and coalitions, but was this really necessary there in Gambia, or YAHYA JAMEH is just looking for a soft landing? Should he decide to return home, he should not be prosecuted over these ills that took place when he was president?
Yes, thank you, Miriam. And I will call what Gambians are going through as convulsions and hangovers of the totalitarian grip that YAHYA JAMEH had on the country for decades. And perhaps that is a very, very relatable scenario. We've seen even in the Somali kind of leadership here in Kenya, in as much as we are embodying and embracing democracy, you will see the northeastern part of the country actually retreating back to their former system of government, which is electing leaders through consensus by the elders. So sometimes when a country is so much used to a totalitarian regime, they tend to backslide and cascade towards the former kind of leadership that was there. But that is something quite understandable, because the purge and the kind of leadership that YAHYA JAMEH had in Gambia, the iron fist that he used to rule with, perhaps had some psychological effects on the people there. And like my good friend Ole Sasina has put it, this is not just an ordinary leader. He was a sitting president and who was ousted by a very, very narrow margin. So this was a country which was sharply divided between the ethnic and maybe the geopolitical lines. So to me, I think it was a good thing to extend an olive branch. However, you mentioned that they had a Truth and Reconciliation Commission, and I happened to actually get some footages of how those commissions were working, and it was something similar to like what was happening in Rwanda and Burundi, and our professor here is an expert in that. I believe he'll be able to expound that more on that. But from where I sit, I think extending an olive branch to YAHYA JAMEH is something good, and he's actually the people who are in his government is something good. But also, like Dr. Matsanga always says, we need accountability, we need repatriation, and we need also restitution for the country to be able to move forward. Without that, we shall be actually burying the old wounds, which might actually come back to haunt the country in the near future. And when you look at the leadership of President Adama Barrow in quite intensive manner, you realize that when he came into office, he came up as a London guard who was promising this country a new horizon, a new dawning, and ensuring that we're going to have a proper leadership, a transparent leadership, which will not even stay in power. He had promised other opposition partners that he was only interested in serving a single term. But what happened when he got into power? He adorned the same olden regalia that YAHYA JAMEH had adorned some years ago, which included very repressive regimes. So that tells you that just like any other African president, President Adama Barrow seems to have backslidden on his promises and actually embodied the dictatorial tendencies of the former leader. And I believe that to an extent will explain why this sudden dalliance between the current regime and the former regime is happening in Gambia. But let us give him a benefit of doubt. Let's assume that perhaps he's just doing that in efforts of making sure that the country is united and integrated back into prosperity. But if there is anything to watch out for, we just hope that it is done in truth and in faith of making sure that the country is moves forward. But bringing back maybe the leadership of the former president, YAHYA JAMEH, I believe that could be something retrogressive. It will be akin to taking 2 steps forward and taking 3 steps backward. I submit, Miriam.
Well, thank you so much. A lot of issues that you brought up there. Professor Jared Onyari.
Yeah, you know very well that I am a true Pan-African history person. I believe in Africa. And I always believe that, Miriam, time has come for us to rewrite history. And we must do it in our lifetime, Miriam. Miriam, as a human being, there is a good side of you and a bad side of you. You can't be bad, you can't be good, Miriam. So you have to balance, and that's what life is all about, Miriam. Miriam, you know, sometimes I sound very controversial, and the other day, you know, I was saying that we get we have to engage the Al-Shabaab, and the people thought that I'm very being crazy. I hope you have seen the article of Professor Macau. I have started the stage running, and you and myself, we are on the same page, Miriam, that when you engage, when you have a conversation, Miriam, when you talk to each other, Miriam, when you have a discussion with each other, this is exactly what is happening in Gambia. And Miriam, we are talking about the redemption strategy, Miriam. And Miriam, for Africa to move forward, for Gambia to move forward, for Kenya to move forward, Miriam, each and everyone has got something to offer. My Chief Chancellor, Sir Dr. Clyde Rivers, says that 7.8 billion people in the world, 7.8 billion solutions, Miriam. So, Miriam, how do you take your country forward, Miriam? You just involve anybody, Miriam. Look at the handshake, Miriam, and you find it is something good which happened in this country, Miriam. And Miriam, do you know what? Kenya is always a pace setter. We give direction, Miriam. What happened in post-election violence of 2007? Very unfortunately, it happened, Miriam, when the late Kofanon stood the stairs of Arambe house, Miriam, and they said, I have a deal. And the deal you saw the Prime Minister and President Uhuru, President Mwai Kibaki greeting each other. Didn't you see it as a replica in Zimbabwe? Didn't you see Sankara becoming a president, Prime Minister, and Mugabe becoming a president, Miriam? The handshake in this country, Miriam, of 9th March, Miriam. Didn't you see what happened in Southern Sudan, Miriam? That Salva Kiir and Dr. Machar, Miriam, they shook hands, Miriam. This is what we call about the redemption strategy, which Dr. Masanga keeps on commending for the continent of Africa, Miriam. Must we kill each other? Must be a winner take it all, Miriam? Don't I have an idea, Miriam, for this country, Miriam? Even if, Miriam, there's nothing I can do for Africa and what I can do for Kenya, Miriam, you mean I can't pray and wish well for this country, Miriam? So, Miriam, what's happening in Gambia, Miriam? Bring all the voices together, Miriam, so that they can be able to address the common challenges and problems facing their country, Miriam. It is a good thing, Miriam. But how I look forward to the day, Miriam, that the African leaders, when you have been in power for 22 years, Miriam, you can say that they are better leaders, Miriam. I will forever be indebted to the late president of Burundi, Nkurunziza, Miriam. My university, Miriam, we had honored him as with a doctorate degree in humanity, Miriam. Miriam, there was a time he wanted to extend his term, Miriam, and I spoke to my chief chancellor and they said, no, Miriam, this is not the way to go. Later, Miriam, he had this to say, that Burundi has got men and women who can take Burundi forward into another level. Miriam, you can see that one happening.
Okay.
So, Miriam, in Gambia, I'm very sure, Miriam, if people sit around the table and engage and have a conversation, Miriam, they will take their country forward, Miriam.
Right.
Regardless who you are, whether you are a criminal, whether people perceive you to be what, Miriam, let us be closer to you, Miriam, and find you find out why do people indulge in corruption, Miriam. Do we need to live in the past, Miriam? No, we need to have the truth-telling, Miriam, so that people can be able to reconcile, Miriam. So that, Miriam, we can be able to reconcile and take this country forward. I'm wishing the people of Gambia the best, the very best, because we have seen it happen. It can happen in their country.
All right, thank you so much. But also now that you brought up the former Burundi president, Pierre Nkurunziza, we know that he changed the constitution in 2015 that brought the country a lot of chaos. So he also had a constitutional course. I think when he wanted to run again illegally for the 4th time, that's when I think he decided the political ground was not very favorable to that. But he did run by force in 2015 that brought a lot of chaos in Burundi. Okay. All right, thank you. So now we get into South Sudan, and we've seen the conflict that has continued in the recent past in South Sudan, and at least 90% of the country is experiencing an alarming level of armed conflict. That is according to a United Nations Commissioner of Human Rights in South Sudan. The commission notes that violence in Warrap, Lakes, Western Equatoria, Upper Nile, and other parts of the central Equatoria states are of a particular concern. In her 6-page report on human rights in South Sudan to the Council on Thursday, Yasmin Suka says the security situation in South Sudan is extremely precarious. The commissioner says that the current security crisis in the country arises from the delay and failure to fully implement the security arrangement. Chapter 2 of the Revitalized Peace Agreement provides for the establishment of a joint army and command structure. Reports indicate that a large number of soldiers have deserted their cantonment sites and training centers because of the government's failure to provide food, water, and sanitation and other, basic amenities there to the soldiers. And of course, in that report, I talked about it here, I think, was it on Thursday last week? The government forces and the government of Sudan is being accused as the people who are fueling and funding this conflict that we see in South Sudan. Prof, I think I'll start with you on this one.
Yeah, Miriam, thank you for starting with me, and that's my area of expertise, Miriam. And Miriam, if you have to deal with a conflict and exhaustively, Miriam, involve all people, inform all people, consult all people, Miriam. Miriam, participatory democracy, participatory development, Miriam, is very key, Miriam. Miriam, people assume that Riek Machar and the Salva Kiir are the one who had issues, Miriam. Time has come, Miriam, for that peace agreement to succeed, Miriam. They must include more parties, Miriam, and they agree on what they are going to do. And Miriam, you cannot sit on Miriam, and now you are going to come this. There must be a time frame, Miriam. We are going to have a transition government, Miriam, for 2 years or 3 years, whichever they agree, Miriam, so they can be able to seek the fresh mandate from the people, Miriam. I don't think, Miriam, since Southern Sudan became independent, Miriam, when they got their self-determination, Miriam. I don't think Salva Kiir has faced the election, Miriam. He has not faced the people, Miriam. So from where I sit, Miriam, leave no one behind, Miriam. Every voice matters, Miriam. Don't just assume that you are going to do this. You become a president, you become a deputy president, you become this and this. Let the people of Southern Sudan decide, Miriam. And Miriam, let me just have this to say, Miriam. If you want to kill a snake, go to chapter 3 of Genesis and say what God said will you do to a snake. You must crush its head. That's what you do, so it can die. You cannot kill a snake by just hitting the tail. And this is exactly what the people of Southern Sudan are doing, Miriam. They are trying to bring peace without dealing where the problem is. So from where I sit, Miriam, there is someone who is benefiting out of the conflict of Southern Sudan, Miriam. And Miriam, as I do, where United Nations forces have gone, Miriam, to bring peace, where the humanitarian organizations have gone, Miriam, you will never have peace in that region, Miriam, I can tell you for free. All right. They pretend, Miriam, that they are giving humanitarian aid when they are actually supplying arms and guns, Miriam. They are equipping those people to fight each other, Miriam. And you know very well the people of Southern Sudan, people are fighting over their resources, gold, oil. So, Miriam, that all part of my recommendation here is, Miriam, to the conflict, Miriam, be brought to the table, Miriam. And I did say here, Miriam, you cannot sign an agreement, Miriam, and you don't fund it. It takes a mocker, Miriam. So the IGAD, Miriam, I know that as stable Sudan, Southern Sudan is for all of us. It is good for Ethiopia, good for Kenya, good for Uganda, for all, Miriam. They should never give up, Miriam. Okay. They should give more funds so that to ensure that agreement is implemented, Miriam. And that's why we are having problems, Miriam. Because the agreement is there, but no funds to implement it. I submit, Miriam.
Okay, thank you so much. That is Professor Ajadonyana. Some Walter-Rich, I'm sure you heard what I said there earlier, but there are also some in that report. I said I looked at it on Thursday. The government is being accused of fueling that conflict. The government forces are being accused of killing people arbitrarily, and governors who are allied to the government have seen. They've been accused of overseeing executions and things like that. So if the government itself is the one that is fueling this conflict that we've seen in the recent past that has continued to become a concern in South Sudan, so where does this leave South Sudanese people? Where does this leave other stakeholders who have been working tirelessly to ensure South Sudan is safe, South Sudan is moving forward?
Thank you, Miriam, for that question. To begin with, Miriam, it's very unfortunate that almost over 12 or so years after South Sudan, of course, got its own independence, or of course separated with the Sudan, the former Sudan. Miriam, that the people of Sudan up to this, South Sudan rather, up to this moment have not seen or known peace. And the reason is because of the leadership. If you've been listening to Professor Jared Onyari keenly, he's spoken about crushing the snake. And if you have to kill the snake, you have to crush its head. I think the problem we are having in South Sudan, as far as, of course, implementing the peace agreements or the peace initiatives that you have had from time to time, it is to do with the President Salva Kiir himself and his arch rival, that is Riek Machar. There's nobody else to blame in this matter. And if the people of South Sudan really want to pursue peace, want to make sure that they are stable enough, that they can continue doing their job and building that young nation, they have to deal with these two leaders. They must be held into account. They must be forced to sit down and agree on some of this on this peace agreement, because they cannot hold hostage the people of South Sudan. They cannot take for granted the kind of interventions and the kind of I would say grace periods that have been given from time to time, including by the United Nations, by the IGAD, by the African Union, by all other initiatives and organs. It is unfortunate that they have abused, they continue to abuse and ignore all these initiatives and rapporteurs because of their selfishness, Miriam. There's no any other way we can describe the reason as to why Salva Kiir and Riek Machar cannot sit down and find a solution or even implement the peace agreement, Miriam, if it is not for the selfishness in those particular leaders. More often, we like pointing fingers at external forces. We may say maybe it is because of the oil reserves in South Sudan, that perhaps there is an external force, maybe French, which is making it difficult for Riek Machar and Salva Kiir or for the leadership of that particular nation, including the opposition leaders, to work together. But I do not agree. You want to tell me that Riek Machar and Salva Kiir do not have their own conscience? They cannot see that which is good for the people of South Sudan. They cannot bury the hatchet and work together. They cannot strike a compromise and say, it is enough, let us work for the people and for the interests of the people of South Sudan. I think the people who are holding the South Sudanese hostage are none other than Riek Machar and Salva Kiir. And the earlier we deal with these two individuals, the better for South Sudan. Otherwise, if we continue massaging the egos of these two leaders, then peace is going to be elusive. We may not see implementation of the various peace agreements that have been signed from ever since, of course, this country came into being, Miriam. So we must, first and foremost, really deal with these two leaders. They must be compelled, really, to implement the peace agreement that was signed in Addis Ababa in 2018. I submit, Miriam.
All right, thank you so much. Daniel Wasonga, before we wrap up the issue of South Sudan, now government being accused of the people who are fueling this conflict in South Sudan. What do you think is happening there in the country?
Yes, thank you, Miriam Ogutu. And of course, Professor Jared Onyari, as an expert for conflict resolution, and my brother, Tarisho Lesina, have been able to actually candidly exhaust this particular field. But I'll add an icing on the cake by just saying that the buck stops at with the people of South Sudan. Because if they decided not to elect these leaders who are causing anarchy and chaos amongst themselves, then we will not hear any gunshot coming out of South Sudan. If they decided they are going to rebel and ignore these unelected rebel leaders who are spewing the hatred between these communities in South Sudan, then we're gonna achieve a long-standing peace. So to me, I think these people who are actually riding on the ignorance of the people of South Sudan have been reaping quite big for so long. And these are people whose their children, their families, and their close associates or do not operate from within the borders of South Sudan, but they have procured themselves good apartments in Europe, in America, and in other neighboring countries like Uganda, Kenya, and Ethiopia. So to me, I think these are the people who are actually causing chaos and conflicts. And you know one thing, Miriam, about conflict, whenever we have conflict, we have anarchy. And whenever we have anarchy, there will be no clear leadership to oversee the resources that there be at any particular region. And that will initiate a very abrasive looting of public resources without having an audit or maybe accountability of whatever is being taken out. And these resources that are being looted, the returns that come out of it actually end into the pockets of these unscrupulous individuals. So for them to be able to advance and elongate their grasp on these particular resources and their access to them, they have to make sure that the turmoil continues long enough until maybe we have these resources being exhausted, and there we shall have peace in South Sudan. It is a scenario what scholars describe as the Dutch disease, a curse of resources, which actually makes a certain region which has resources to fall into turmoil and chaos as people scramble for these particular resources. And in South Sudan, it could be even much wider net, because it might be not even just the local leadership that is bringing chaos, but also the foreign powers, which are giving these people guns and ammunition to distribute to the other rebel members of these warring factions, are also the part of the problem. So not unless we address the problem from the top going downwards, I think we shall not be able to achieve a long-standing peace. And I totally agree with my other co-panelists that the problem is at the top and not at the bottom. I submit, Miriam.
All right, very well, thank you. So that is where we will leave the issue of South Sudan. Of course, this is a country that we talk about almost every day here on Punchline, so we shall continue observing. And I have not seen the government of South Sudan or President Salva Kiir respond to this very damning information on this report. So I don't know if the silence means it's true of these accusations that have been alleged the government is committing. And so we'll be waiting to see what the government of South Sudan will do or how they will respond moving forward. Okay, now we go on to our last topic of the day, and that is in Nigeria. And President Buhari just returned to Abuja after his week-long engagement at the 76th session of the United Nations General Assembly in New York, United States. And the president came back to the country with a special request from the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, which is to help in restoring social political order in troubled West African countries. Guterres, who commended Buhari for his leadership roles in Africa, as well as the stabilization of the West African sub-region, aired his opinion during an audience with the president at the sidelines of the 76th session of the UNGA. Guterres observed that Africa, especially West Africa, was generally seen as an ocean of stability, good governance, but was deeply concerned about the recent reversal of fortunes in democratic rule in some parts of the West African sub-region, with coups overturning elected institutions. All right, so Guterres is saying that West Africa has been known to be stable. I don't know if he watches the reports and what has been happening in West Africa, but let's go on to what he said. He tasked President Buhari and told him that he should be the one leading efforts to restore social political order in the troubled West African states. Judging from what is going on in Nigeria as you speak right now, Professor Jared Onyari, is Buhari the right man to try and restore peace and order in West Africa?
Yeah, Miriam, it is either by design or by the vote that is the president for Nigeria now. Mm-hmm. Whether you like him, you like him or you don't like him, Miriam, until we remove him through a process, Miriam, either maybe he's overthrown or it is another president comes in, Miriam. From where I sit, Miriam, and Tawis, I saw him saying nothing he said, and they're saying, no, Miriam, if we can engage with other leaders, Miriam, Nigeria is too big for one man, Miriam. You know, Nigeria, you talk about our population reaching over 200 million people, Miriam. So the best he can do is he has got the cardinal responsibility, Miriam, to ensure that there is peace and security in Nigeria. That is one of the reasons why you will become a leader of a country, Miriam. As it is now, Miriam, he cannot run away. He has to engage other leaders, Miriam. Even if you don't agree, Miriam. Remember, we have just come from Gambia. Remember what we have said, Miriam. You need not to like each other, Miriam. But for the sake of taking the country, Miriam, forward, for the sake of addressing unemployment in Nigeria, Miriam, in addressing the problem facing the young people in Nigeria, Miriam, addressing the insecurity, Miriam, and the kidnapping of women and schoolgirls, Miriam, addressing the issues facing the Biafra people, Miriam, he cannot run away, Miriam, even if he's not the right person. He is the chief in commander and the head of government and the head of state in Nigeria, Miriam. He must engage other leaders, Miriam. And that was the message the Secretary General for the United Nations was passing to him, Miriam. Okay. That you go back home and engage. It is not that Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta and Raila Odinga were darlings, Miriam. They said, no, Miriam, we have to put our country forward first, Miriam, and correct all the ills facing this country. And Miriam, you can see the commitment, you can see the fruits of the handshake, Miriam. If he has happened in Kenya, Miriam, as much as we may not like BUHARI, Miriam, let us engage him. Let us have an honest conversation, Miriam. Let us have a discussion, Miriam, on how we can take Nigeria forward, Miriam. A stable Nigeria, Miriam, is good for Africa. It is our big brother, Miriam. You can't, Miriam, be happy, Miriam, to see all the Nigerians, Miriam, scattered all over the world without having their stable country, Miriam. I submit.
All right, thank you so much. And as far as I agree with you in that regard, but for Guterres to task him to go find, and restore some socio-political order in the troubled West African nations, that is ECOWAS region, we've seen what has been happening. So Buhari is telling him, you are the right person to go and try and fix problems in the ECOWAS country there. And we've seen what he's been able or not been able to do back at home. Samuel Tawish, is Buhari the right person to bring some stability in West African nations?
Miriam, it may appear funny that the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has endorsed President Buhari of Nigeria to spearhead, of course, cohesion, peace, and stability, especially for the Western, for the ECOWAS region. But again, Miriam, they usually say that if you want to catch a thief, you send a thief. And I think basically that is what Antonio Guterres is using, is pulling that card because he knows President Buhari has been notorious in terms of his rule in Nigeria. He has been, is a person who has overseen a very bad economy in Nigeria. He is, of course, oppressed the voice of dissent in that particular country. And from where I sit, Miriam, he cannot be a solution to those problems. Only that I think he's been given a challenge that now you have to rise to the occasion and be able to advocate for peace, stability for that particular region. In itself, it's a very big challenge to President Buhari because for him to go out to any other West country, the West Africa country, he has to begin from home. He has to ensure that there's peace, security, and stability in his own home. He has to make sure that he has allowed the voice of dissent really to reign. Because what we are seeing today, he's been dealing with the opposition. He has, of course, we understand the story of Nnamdi Kanu and others, what has been happening, especially for the Igbos. And that is not a very good example. And if Buhari today was to spearhead any kind of talks or initiatives towards having peace and stability in that particular region, leave alone in Africa, then there will be a very big indictment on him as to why he has failed to restore peace and stability in that particular, in his own country. Look at what is happening in Cameroon, the neighboring in Nigeria. Professor Jared Onyari has told you about the population you have in Nigeria. Over 200 million people in Nigeria today. It should have been the biggest economy we have in the African continent today. It should have been the biggest brother we have today in the African continent. Maybe all of us as Africans and Kenyans and other countries will be looking up to Nigeria really to provide us with a way forward on how to catapult our economy and such kind of things. But as it is, President Buhari has failed on the leadership front. And now with this challenge, I think maybe he can go back to the drawing board and see what best he can do, not only to improve Nigeria, but to improve West Africa and improve Africa at large. I submit, Miriam.
Very well. What say you, Daniel Wesonga, on this task that Guterres has given Buhari?
Yes, Miriam Ogutu. And what I'll take out of it is just a simple analogy. Miriam, you cannot go to put out fire on a neighbor's house when your own house is burning. And that is what is happening in Nigeria. Nigeria, we have every daily news of Boko Haram and other bandits abducting people in the north. We have the everyday news of young people being shot in the streets. We have demonstrations everywhere. Nigeria is not even a republic that you will say that is stable. It is on itself a banana republic, despite having massive resources in oil, having a massive quite potential in terms of its population. You know, there's always strength in numbers, and Nigeria being Africa's most populous country, there should be much innovation, much potential coming out of Nigeria, spreading to the rest of the African continent. But what we are seeing always coming from Nigeria is the gleam pictures of police brutality, gleam pictures of power struggles, gleam pictures of economic breakdowns, and all leadership impediments that have actually prevented the West African countries from achieving its potential in terms of leadership in social, economic, and political affairs. So to me, I think President Buhari is not the right person to go and bring peace in any other country, leave alone Guinea. I think the UN Secretary General Guterres will have gone for someone maybe even from South Africa. We've never seen South Africa going to chaos after every election, regardless of the fact that we do have parties like EFF of Julius Malema actually electrifying its supporters and making them seem like they will go into protest if they were defeated on the ballot. We've never seen that happening, regardless of the fact that this was a country which had been bedeviled by years and years of apartheid, and they have the simmering pressure of the injustices and discrimination that are still ongoing up to this time. We've never seen South Africa doing so. People vote and go home. But in Nigeria, I think it is a bad example, and that is why even the coup leader of Guinea has been treating these leaders, some of these leaders from West Africa, with contempt, because these are people who are incapable of brokering even peace in their own countries. Miriam, a man who is unable to bring his own family together, can never purport to be going to broker peace amongst his warring neighbors and the community at large. So let charity begin at home. Muhammadu Buhari, the president of Nigeria, is not the legitimate, or maybe the more is not the leader who could be in a position rather to be able to go and talk to the people of Guinea and bring peace in that country. I submit, Miriam.
All right, thank you. And I'm sure you're alluding to our former president of Nigeria, Jonathan Goodluck, who has been leading the mediation between ECOWAS and Mali. And you see how that has worked out not very well. So you're saying they cannot respect them because they're unable to do the same in their own country. Quite interesting. All right. So thank you so much, Professor Jared Onyari. Thank you, Daniel Wesonga. Thank you, Samuel Tawish. This has been Africa Showdown. Join us tomorrow at 9 a.m. East African time, where we shall be bringing you the latest from Kenya and indeed from the the continent of Africa. My name is Miriam Ogutu. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye-bye for now.